Ukraine deemed as the unlucky country of the world, being brutally invaded by the Kremlin and is keep on being destroyed. With Russia trying its hardest to send Ukraine back to the Stone Ages. But let's go back in time and see invisible Ukraine to the public eye, the Ukraine before the February 24, 2022. Ukraine, country blessed by its geography, being located on flat arable land called Chernozem, which translates to black soil from Russian, and this soil is one of the most fertile and mineral-rich soils in the world. With an addition of fourth largest river in Europe called Dnipro, this land is American Midwest level fertile. Therefore, it's not a surprise to hear that Ukraine is world's seventh largest wheat exporter in the world for 2021, with up to $5.1 billion worth of export. Ukraine has large Carpathian Mountains to its west with some of the most picturesque scenery in the world. The mountains act as a perfect wall against any invaders, which historically made Ukraine protected from the west. Though not gonna lie, all Ukrainians would rather have those mountains to the east part of the country to wall of some other neighbors. Also, Ukraine has extremely rich, and plenty of it, mineral resource deposits. With huge rich iron ore deposit in the country's east, followed by two giant coal plateaus to its west and east of the country. As well as Europe's third largest shale gas reserves at 1.2 trillion cubic meters and 5.4 trillion cubic meters of total gas deposits in the country, making Ukraine a big rival for Russia in Europe's energy market. It must be also stated how Ukraine has basically the whole periodic table in its borders, with large amounts of titanium ore, bauxite, nepheline, alunite, and mercury ores. A large deposit of ozocrite. I have no clue how important those ores are, but they deemed important by US government, therefore they are important, I guess. That geographical god juice Ukraine possesses is complemented by Ukraine's quite large 41 million people population. From the geographic pluses stated in the video, it is apparent that Ukraine is a perfect place for industry and manufacturing, with Ukraine possessing minerals and ores, population and transportation accessibility to export the finished goods. So, it's no wonder that 1 in 4 Ukrainians work in manufacturing industry, which accounts for 28.6% of GDP, which is about $57.2 billion worth of production. We've discussed Ukraine's agricultural and manufacturing industry, but together they account for only 40.8% of Ukraine's GDP and only 32.3% of the labor force. So where is everything else? Where does the money come from, and people work? Answer is service sector. Ukraine has highly educated workforce. In fact, Ukraine is the largest education to GDP spender in the world, spending 6% of its GDP on education, way above EU average of 4.7%, and education is highly valued in society, with 57.1% of population having higher education degree. That's not counting educated Ukrainians leaving the nation. Just to compare that 57% figure with highly educated nations such as Switzerland having only 44% of population with higher education. Therefore, with such high education levels, Ukraine is an ideal place for highly skilled sectors such as IT. With it being a larger export for Ukraine than even its grain, accounting for $6.8 billion and 37% of the service exports. Also, Ukraine's IT sector was estimated to grow 25 to 30% annually before the war, which mean that those sweet IT exports only increase. Ukraine is a nation very lucky with its geography and educated population, and even though it's a nation with its own problems even before the war, like corruption and inequality, Ukraine is still a great nation with great prospects to grow and prosper after the war. Slava Ukraine!